The voice in the basement. Some houses feel wrong the moment you see them. Not because they're old, not because they're abandoned, but because something inside seems to be waiting. This is the story of Ethan, and the voice that came from his basement. Ethan had just moved into a small house in the countryside. The price had been suspiciously low, but he didn't ask questions. It was exactly what he needed. A quiet place, far away from the noise of the city. The first week was peaceful. Then, on the 8th night, he woke up to a sound. Knock, knock, knock. At first, he thought it was part of a dream. But as he sat up in bed, he heard it again. Knock, knock, knock. The sound was coming from the basement. Ethan checked the time, 3:13 in the morning. He climbed out of bed and slowly walked downstairs. The house was silent except for the sound of rain hitting the windows. When he reached the basement door, the knocking stopped. Hello? He called out. No answer. His hand trembled as he reached for the handle. Slowly, he opened the door. The basement light flickered on. Dust covered the concrete floor. Old shelves lined the walls. Everything looked completely normal. No one was there. Ethan laughed nervously. Just my imagination. As he turned to leave, a whisper drifted from beneath the stairs. Ethan. His blood ran cold. He spun around. What? Silence. The whisper had sounded close. Very close. And somehow, it knew his name. The next morning, Ethan convinced himself that he had imagined the whole thing. Stress. Lack of sleep. Nothing more. But the following night, the knocking returned. This time, he was prepared. He placed his phone on a shelf facing the basement door and started recording. Then he went to bed. The next morning, he watched the footage. For several hours, nothing happened. Then, at exactly 3:13 in the morning, the basement door slowly opened by itself. Ethan stared at the screen. His hands began to shake. The camera couldn't see into the darkness beyond the doorway. But it captured something else. A voice. A voice that sounded exactly like his own. He's watching. A burst of static filled the recording. Then the voice spoke again. Don't let him out. The video ended. Ethan barely slept that night. The following day, he visited his elderly neighbor, Walter. The moment Walter heard his address, his face turned pale. You live there? Walter asked. Yeah, Ethan replied. Why? Walter stared at him for several seconds. Then he sighed. 30 years ago, a family disappeared from that house. Ethan felt a chill crawl up his spine. What happened to them? No one knows, Walter said quietly. All of them vanished except the father. What did he say? Walter looked away. He kept repeating the same sentence until the day he died. What sentence? Walter swallowed. He came from the basement. That night, Ethan searched every inch of the basement. Every wall, every shelf, every corner. And finally, he found something. Hidden beneath an old wooden shelf was a trapdoor. He pulled it open. Below was a narrow tunnel descending into darkness. A cold draft flowed upward. And then he heard a voice. Ethan, help me. The voice sounded terrified. And it sounded exactly like him. Every instinct told him to run. Instead, he climbed down. The tunnel led to a small underground room. At first, he thought it was empty. Then he noticed the photographs. Hundreds of them. Pictures covered every wall. Photos of families. Photos of previous homeowners. Photos taken while they slept. While they ate dinner. While they watched television. As if someone had been secretly living beneath the house for decades. Then Ethan spotted the newest photograph. His heart nearly stopped. It was a picture of him. Sleeping in his bed, taken the night before. A noise echoed behind him. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Ethan turned around. A figure stepped from the shadows. For a moment, he couldn't understand what he was seeing. Then the figure entered the light. And Ethan froze. Because the man standing before him looked exactly like him. Same eyes. Same face. Same scars. Perfectly identical. The stranger smiled. I've been trapped down here for a very long time. Ethan backed away. No. The stranger took a step forward. And now it's your turn. 3 days later, police entered the house after reports that Ethan had gone missing. They found his phone. They found the photographs. They found the hidden room beneath the basement. But Ethan was gone. No trace of him was ever discovered. The house still stands today. Empty. Silent. Abandoned. But according to the neighbors, every few nights, a voice can still be heard coming from the basement. A desperate voice. Begging for help. A voice that sounds exactly like Ethan. Please, don't let him out. The voice is still there. Waiting in the darkness. And if you ever hear knocking beneath your floor at 3:13 in the morning. Whatever you do, don't open the basement door.